Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Uninterrupted. I'm your host, Chris Hammonds, and with me today is our COO, John Fausz. John, say hello.
Hey, everybody.
All right, guys. As always, we're going to hop right into it. The topic today. Now, you may have heard us say we've talked about auditing hundreds of businesses all across the tri-state, and you've heard us say this classic line: most of them are not doing enough. But what does that really mean? John, can you tell people what that actually means when we're saying that?
Yeah, so really we've found 4 companies out of the hundreds that we've audited at this point that I would say are doing enough for cybersecurity. And what that means when I say enough, I would say that would be the thing that would make it more difficult for a hacker to make the 3 bad things that we talk about happen. So that's stealing the financial data or putting themselves in the middle of a financial transaction, to get in the middle of your data and steal that and hold it, blackmail you for the release of it basically, and also your traditional ransomware, which is lock up your operations and make you consider a ransom. And so when I think about cybersecurity, I think about how do I make it so a hacker can't achieve that goal, so that if they do get access to your system, which a lot of them will, initial access is a lot easier than we think, then it'll be hard for them to achieve that goal and they'll leave. And one of my ways that I look at this is I think when I say people are not doing enough, a lot of times that comes into thinking that they're more locked down than they are, that initial access is harder than it really is, and the hackers have really made a massive focus on initial access, whether that be credential theft or business email compromise or vulnerabilities with firewalls or spam filter bypasses or user training bypass, you name it, there's a ton of them, ways to get onto your system. At that point, how do you detect that somebody's there that shouldn't be, doing something that they shouldn't be, and then stopping them from achieving their main goal, which is getting money from you?
Absolutely, yeah. From a lot of people that I speak with, they kind of have the standard set up, and maybe this could have been good enough a few 10 years or so ago, but what I traditionally see, and they're overconfident about this setup, is, oh, we have MFA, we have email filters, and we also have a firewall. It sounds like a lot, but can hackers just get around that nowadays in 2026?
Yeah. So basically, when I look at that, if I look at MFA and I look at the spam filter and I look at a firewall, and then EDR antivirus is kind of the new one that's been added to that. A lot of people will have MFA, and you ask them, where do they have MFA? And it's like, well, we have MFA for our email. Okay, that's great. That's the floor these days. Do you have it on your VPN? Do you have it on all these other technologies? Do you know that hackers have come up with ways to bypass MFA? You know, they have ways of stealing that MFA token from your employees. They have ways to overload them with MFA requests so they can bypass that. They have ways to get it disabled and all those sorts of things. Do you know what you're doing with that aspect to stop it? When you look at spam filters, I see spam filters fail all the time because spam filtering is hard. It's the nirvana, I believe, in cybersecurity these days. Most of the attacks happen over email. If I crank down the spam filters too hard so that they'll block everything that's illegitimate, they will block an absolutely mountain of legitimate business, because the hackers aren't writing emails that say, hey, look, I'm spam, don't click me. They're writing emails that look like legitimate business to bypass the spam filters. So it gets harder for them to tell, it gets harder for the users to tell, and all those kinds of things. When I look at firewalls, firewalls can be good, but they also can be your greatest enemy. I've seen multiple hacks that have happened because the firewall itself has a vulnerability that didn't get patched fast enough. SSL VPN is still turned on, and that's a technology that FBI and Homeland Security and you name it, the government agencies say don't use it anymore, use a different product to do remote access. That's causing your firewall to be vulnerable. I've seen hacks that happen that's direct access to companies' networks because their firewall got taken over. And then I also see the EDR antivirus. Now, a single solution like EDR antivirus just simply doesn't look at enough. And by the time the EDR picks it up, when we look at the 5 standards of the NIST cybersecurity framework, identify, know what you have, protect it if you can, detect unauthorized access, respond to it, and recover. Well, protect, once an EDR sees it, you've not protected it. You're now into detect, respond, and recover. That bad thing is on your endpoint already, right? And so what happens if your EDR doesn't detect it? If it doesn't detect it fast enough? What happens if somebody uses a tool that is legitimate? Like I've said before, hundreds of times on here, the difference between a kitchen knife being a useful tool or a dangerous weapon is intent. So if somebody uses a tool, and I pick on TeamViewer all the time, but you pick any tool you want that's used for legitimate business purposes. How is it being used is the thing that makes it dangerous or not.
Right.
So when I look at this cocktail of things that have MFA, spam filter, EDR antivirus, and a firewall, all the companies that I've seen have full encryption events over the last 2 years have had all those. They have MFA on their email. They maybe don't have it everywhere, but they have it. Maybe some privileged accounts have MFA. The hackers look at it, blah, I don't care, right? They have a firewall. Okay, well, an end user went through and let somebody through the firewall. You know, hey, I went out to get this thing and it let it through the firewall because it couldn't inspect the traffic correctly. And even if all the security services turned on, it's hard to inspect all the traffic that comes through. Or the firewall had a vulnerability that didn't get patched and the hackers used your firewall against you and now it became the thing that let them come through. You know, the spam filter failed because it let a bad email through that somebody was able to click on, right? And the EDR antivirus saw it, but they didn't respond quick enough, or maybe they didn't see it, or maybe it got disabled. Hackers do EDR bypasses. It's a thing that they do, or they hide in a way that's not going to detect the EDR. So what are you doing past that? When I say it's not enough, it's a good start. You need all those things as part of your cybersecurity package, but it's a good start to get you going, but it's not going down enough to say, how do I prevent the 3 bad things from happening? How do I then say, what are my holes that I have going on my network to that I can now detect when something is outside of this scope? How do I protect it so a hacker can't install software? How do I protect it so that the logs are being looked at so that I can see unauthorized behavior? Are we looking and aggregating those logs and having somebody look at those at 2 a.m. whenever it's daytime in Europe, and that's where a lot of the hacking comes from? You know, how am I doing these sorts of things that I can effectively detect unauthorized access and respond and recover from that before one of those bad things happen?
Gotcha. You made me think of a question. You know, you said a lot of it's through email and through human error, but what if I upped my training game and we had made sure our training was on top of it? You're getting trained, you're getting fake emails sent to you all the time. That would help out a little bit, right?
Yeah. It helps. Yeah. So I'm going to say this. I'm a hacker. Oh, I guess I'm done now. Everybody's trained, so I don't have to actually, my business model doesn't work anymore and nothing works. No, the hackers know that we're training everybody. That might have been a silver bullet a few years ago, but it's not anymore. Things change, the hackers change, everybody evolves, and they look for ways to bypass that sort of training. That's why we see email account takeover, business email compromise and email account takeover be so high. Listen, if you're already sharing a document back and forth with somebody that you trust and that person gets their email taken over and they send you another document, you're going to trust that. I don't care what training you had go on. You're going to click on it. And then the start of that bad thing has happened. What happens then? Did the end user know? Were they trained up on the next piece? What happens when something unusual happens? Did something unusual happen? What are you doing to look at the system to say, hey, okay, well, this system only has access to something that it needs, or this user can't install software, or you can't log into Office 365 without this conditional access, or all these other things to prevent the bad thing from happening, or looking at the logs and doing all that kind of stuff. And so your users will click on stuff due to absolutely zero fault of their own. The hackers have gotten better, and so they didn't throw up their hands and say, oh, they're being trained now. I guess, I guess I'll go be poor. No, they adapt and overcome. And so we have to adapt to what they're doing and then overcome from that as well. And I see a lot of times where the cyber insurance latches on to do user training. Well, I got a dirty secret for you from the industry. Pre-user training, and this was a few years ago, pre-user training, about 20% of your employees would click on stuff. Post-user training, the best that ever got was 3%. You train your users and 3% of them still click on stuff. So even with that metric, you only need one. I say this that's a perfect example. I say this from a defensive perspective. Defense is hard. The hacker only needs to get lucky once. We have to be great hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. They only need one.
It's like baseball. You got 9 fielders out there trying to stop it, and you got one person swinging the bat. Mm-hmm. You need 9 people to look at everything, cover that whole field.
Right, yeah.
Well,
you're one home run away.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of a question I got not too long ago kind of threw me off here. Someone had asked me why isn't cybersecurity just something where you could put all these things in place and just kind of forget about, like, aren't the tools going to do their job at that point? Once I do all of this and I make my changes and I'm like, hey, we're going to start to do this for cybersecurity. Why is that something that's ongoing?
Yeah, I like
I got that.
Yeah, we've gotten that a few, like, hey, especially we charge for things monthly, and why do we charge for things monthly? Can't this just be a project like I used to do when I improve my security, and then it's a project and it's paid for once? But I like to think of it like cleaning a house or cleaning a building. You know, it's something that you'll never be done with. It's something that's never perfect. You can strive for it to be perfect, but you always have to do it. And these are the non-sexy things of cybersecurity that I talk about, but it's, you know, if you have a group of people come over and you're like, hey, I want to clean up for this party, and then you never clean again, you're going to have a really dirty space.
Right.
You know, you're constantly fighting that entropy of things breaking down, things getting dirty. You're going to constantly fight with this from maintenance of a place. Like, right, our building here requires a lot of maintenance. You know, we can't say, hey, well, you know, we're just not going to do it. Eventually, it comes back to hurt you in the end. So you constantly have to be doing it. You constantly have to be making improvements. And you also, with cybersecurity, there's another piece of this as well. A lot of times that we sit here and nothing happens. We look at the logs, there's nothing unusual with the logs, you know, and you're like, man, this cybersecurity just costs me a lot of money and doesn't do anything. But when that one home run tries to happen, are you able to raise the fences on demand to stop it from scoring? That's what cybersecurity is. It's looking at all the logs. It's looking at all the things. It's adapting to what the hackers are preventing, changing your defense, making it better, fixing the tiny improvements. Every dam leaks. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Every dam has leaks, and part of maintaining a dam is plugging up the leaks before something bad happens. That's kind of like cybersecurity. You're going to find out holes that are in your system, and then you're going to patch them and plug them. You're going to find the vulnerabilities, and you're going to fix them before it comes to have a complete disaster and really harm you.
Yeah, and you got to have someone looking for those holes.
100%. Yeah, and somebody who's specialized in looking at them.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter that one of your, you know, the user training is basically like, well, I have an employee that goes and sees water leaking out, seepage out of the dam, and sees water leaking out there, and it's like, well, that's interesting. If they never tell anybody, then it can turn into a really horrific situation.
Right.
And you still need experts to go and do something with that information. That's where cybersecurity is, and that's what these businesses that we see. And so I see a lot of times these companies, most of these companies are like, yeah, we took care of that, because they're not thinking about cybersecurity as a mindset. It's a thing that your business does constantly. It takes people that are doing it and living it and thinking about it all the time, and it's never done. But it's important to keep doing, just like cleaning your house.
It's like if you go get a bunch of security cameras, right? And you got all these security cameras around your building, protecting it from just one small area for crime. But those cameras mean nothing if no one's looking at them. Right, you got to have someone looking at it to be able to detect certain things and prevent the bad thing from happening. And I mentioned the area, and John, this is one of the things that you've told me a while ago. Think about it like this. You, with your security cameras in your business, you're protecting your parking lot. When you're thinking about cybersecurity, your defense has to go up to protect it against the whole world, because the threats are coming in from everywhere, right?
Right, yeah. So when you're looking at physical security, you're protecting your location, we'll say at best regional threats to your organization. Well, your region becomes the entire world when you're talking about cybersecurity. Right. And so your risk is different. And so if you're looking at a security camera that has issues where you're just looking at the parking lot, you know, what if something happens to one of those security cameras and you don't notice that a bad guy came through in a blind spot that you have, and now they've ravaged your building on the inside, and you don't have anything that's looking at that. So cybersecurity will take a look at all these aspects at once. You want to find out what you're not seeing and what you have holes in. And not only do you want to have it looking at the images in those security cameras, you want to see the things before something bad happens.
Yes.
You want to identify, hey, why is there this person in this hoodie here acting suspicious, before they've had a chance to do something bad, to have one of the bad things happen. And that's what effective cybersecurity does. It says, hey, what don't we have visibility into? Why would we want to get visibility into that? How do we gain visibility into it? And then how do we take away effective insights from that we can detect unauthorized access, unauthorized behavior, and respond and recover from that situation before the detection becomes, you've been encrypted, we found out because we saw the encryption letter, and your response and recovery is potentially paying a ransom and being down and in a limp mode for 9 months. That's what we want to do, and it's very possible to do, and we give people the ammo to do that, but they have to think in the back of their heads, maybe we're not as covered as we think we are, and we need to talk to an expert about finding out what we're missing.
Yeah, and reach out to us. If you do have questions, use us as your free resource. Call us with your questions. We want to be able to help. And John, thank you so much for explaining it that way. That actually paints a totally different picture for those who really just don't know enough about cybersecurity, so we appreciate it. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, reach out. You can do this your own. We've seen people that do it that aren't experts in this. I've talked to companies after they've had everything happen that they're like, no, we'll just do it, and they're not experts in it, and they maybe chose a tool set 3 or 4 years ago that was enough then, but they're not making the changes and keeping up with it like you have to. The hackers are never stopping evolving, and your defenses need to never stop evolving as well. And if you're not constantly making improvements and looking how to make your organizations better, then you really need to reach out to us and talk to us, and we can help you along that path.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, John. That's all we have for today. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for our next episode.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Uninterrupted, a podcast from Fausz Cybersecurity. We hope you walked away with practical insights to protect your business and stay ahead of the latest cyber threats. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your colleagues. For more tips, resources, and cybersecurity updates, visit Forbis.com, that's 4bis.com, and follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook. We'll be back soon with another episode, so stay vigilant and stay uninterrupted.